Crypto Sniper, how are you? Lovely people. Yep, it is that time. It's actually weekend time coming. Yep, it's going to be an interesting one. And welcome to the Crypto Sniper. We're going to be talking about Bitcoin. We're going to talk about the overall crypto market. We're going to talk about Cardano. They will be talking today. Charles Hodgkinson making some announcements. He's pretty good at managing a bit of a hype train in terms of things he'll be delivering. And I think they'll probably, given his last smirk that he had, he'll probably have some good news. So my insiders tell me they keep me up to date with all things Charles Hodgkinson. So we'll talk about them, and we'll say more importantly, technically, why it is, as we look at them, that actually there's more to come, because it's already done a lot. You know, it's a hard buy chasing something that's gone up really hard. We've been accumulating early on in the week. We had a setup. And we'll explain to you which one we had a setup against. In fact, we look at it across all tokens, 360-degree analysis, and you can spot relative strength in individual cross analyses. And that's something we do as part of being a community. And the links are below for you to book a call over this weekend. We actually do make slots available on the weekend. You can book and have a chat with someone just like you, a trader who would like to grow his wealth in what we are calling the second half of the macro bull. Lots of bears still out there. Lots of people saying we've all fallen for the bear trap. It's a cunning ploy. You're just getting to make some money, but it's all seducings for a big smash down. Maybe they're right. It can still happen, but you'll see. So I'm going to talk to you about Bitcoin. Direction God. Now, as I've highlighted, I'm not holding Bitcoin because there's other things I think will go up faster. And in my opinion, we're going to be early doors quite strong on the alts. So our cross analysis for Bitcoin is that there's one or two things that have been quicker. We were early into the F bulls. We've got some other bull. We got some other on the perps on FTX. The link is also below. Open yourself an FTX account. You can manage your blue pot, your orange and your red pot as well, according to your needs. So watch out for that. That's pretty useful to be doing as well. Also, as I will say, while silver and gold struggle, remember, if you have it all in crypto and then we get sudden, funny, weird things that happen, power, digitalized money gets threatened, or central banks want to cancel, all your wealth will go down. Be careful about being a 99%er only on one horse, a stable over others. For that, you can get pure silver and gold. Where's his brick? Oh, can he find it? Yes, he can. His beloved brick, pure heavy metals. They're going to get cheap, and they're cheap now. And they might get a little bit cheaper for a short while, but I think in the long run, that'll be the trade. They'll be wrong, and suddenly right. But this is crypto. Let's take you to Bitcoin. Let's talk about direction. Let's go straight. A couple of key levels. Chart up there now showing, and this is what we've got for you. So why is it slowing down? First of all, it's at a period where it's paused. It's had quite a good run. And there is some degree of sign of, but some of the momentum coming out of it. The biggest move was after the last dip down. Third impulse. Let's get our jaws going. Third impulse. The best part of the move. This is why I often say it helps to be early. You don't have to be early the very first, but it helps to be reasonably early, because the best part of the move was this part of the move. Let's just draw it. We'll go fat cokey. In terms of momentum and rate of change, that was your best part of the move. And the only way you could have been there is you should have had to have had a bull bias already before, thanks to the commitment of trader report.
The timeline's not visible.
Timeline's not visible. Let's just pull that chart up a bit so that you can see the timelines. Hey, stop that. It thinks it knows what you want, and it wants to fill your screen. And what you need to say is, piss off Bill Gates on a number of levels. Okay, so that was the earliest part, and that comes from understanding three impulse falling wedges. So accumulate, get long. We were actually holding collateral after the target was made from the short out of the rising wedge. That was your bear sell-off. And we're saying, look, there is a case for it to go lower, and it loomed quite large when we had that squeezy and it broke to the downside. After that, we've been biased longs ever since that invalidation. Throughout this period, holding our collateral long and accumulate on the dips. And you can see This key target, apart from being a target on the head and shoulders, was a natural accumulation point. There. Those were your accumulation points. Anything below 30K and you were laughing. And then you'll move very, very firmly. So that was the most attractive part of the move. If you wanted to wait for the confirmation of the falling the wedge break, Gesundheit. You could have waited for that point there on the red circle, and that was indeed it. And you still would have had a very, very good run. And I mean, you're still doing great, but this is slightly more chop, and this is getting a little bit like it needs a wind up. And the key level I wanted to remind you about, talking about direction and Bitcoin, is your head and shoulder, which I will show you the whole aspect to. The 47,500, which was the head and shoulder that you crept up onto that level and then later became your hard neckline. So you typically creep up on a level, bit of a rising wedge, you spill through it, you creep up on it. That was your whole left shoulder in formation, but it was very well enforced there and there and later there. So that was your structure. We call these armpits 1 and 2, the last point before you start the head and the first point on your way back down from the head. And that is the beginning of the right shoulder, so that you know where you are in those transitions. There's sometimes a bit of a transition. You bounce, you turn around, you come back down again. Bit of a transition before you start the journey back up. So it's helpful to know where you are. So that was it. Boom. So you had the touch of our broadening structure, which we said still exists, was a descending megaphone, which is classic. The descent is the splitter there. So you can see that, and that's typical bottoming, and you had the regular interactions with the 30K. So that's, you know, all this. This is a bit of a recap, but it helps to understand. So what's happened since? Well, after testing the high of our megaphone structure, you broke up it and you kind of came back to it. Now, what's happening now? Well, we're a little bit range bound, and we're currently on an up, but I think it can soften. It could even come back down. There's a number of ways you break the 47.5. My overall goal is that you will break the 47.5, which is the neckline. For me, that is a very significant moment. To the guys that are in bearish mindsets and complete bear bias, they'll not see that as significant, but when it runs the 50K, they will start to wonder, because that's a long way away from 29. Better part of 21,000. You add 21 to 50K, you're at 71. It's to be equidistant, you'll have to be at all-time highs. So at that point, I think a few more people start to realize. And you could find that the 47 may be a delay before we run the 47.5, but that when it falls, it's normally broken impulsively. Note that. First you test it, then you break it impulsively. You tested it quite a bit here. And the same there. First you test it, then you pull back, then you climb, and then you shot. So it will be test, test, wind up, taking a while, struggling, looking a little bit heavy, and then push. So the bias bull will continue to serve you well. So what we could do is we could do a couple of things. So we'll let go of this time frame. And we're talking direction of the whole crypto market, not just Bitcoin when we do this. It's quite important to understand that. We'll drop down to the 4 hourly, get a little bit more scope. So typically you want to even sometimes slightly bearish patterns end up moving up when you're in the early stage bull. So we're in the early part of second half orange segments, just finished and onto the field again in our view. And this is the beginning of the run out. And you started, we had a bit of a channel there, you pull back, and guess what? Out of nowhere, little double bottom, boom, 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 and you're going back up again. You tested the top of the megaphone, you broke through it, you came back and you sat on it, then you just pushed past the previous high, just like no issues. So what's going to happen here, in my opinion, is there's only a certain number of ways that you go up. You'll squeeze like that and do a symmetrical triangle, possible HVF. You can do a rising wedge, but that requires this to go slightly higher than this. I'm not sure we're seeing that appetite there, but that could be like that, for example. I'm biasing more to the first one. You can actually do a falling wedge, but you've already probably gone a bit high for that. But it could, if it suddenly got slammed, do something like that. And then you break up and you set up some new structure and then you go. That's called a pattern extension. So where you are initially thinking that it might be a small squeeze like this, that would be what we call a pattern extension. You end up still with something symmetrical, setting up and breaking up. And that itself could also, instead of being the symmetrical, could also be a falling wedge, could be a rising wedge, a number of ways. So that's typically, you squeeze higher. To get the momentum, you typically squeeze. So the volatility dissipates and you squeeze. People are starting to get bored. People are calling tops. A lot of the bear guys will say the bear trap's about to be sprung. And they're all getting, you know, it's kind of in a range now. Bitcoin has been in the 44 to 46 and some change range for a bit. And I think a little bit more. So it'll be an interesting weekend. I think a little bit initially maybe to the downside first before you go. But when you go with momentum, and then you could follow through. You might even see 49s, possibly 50s as part of this move. Last weekend was a good weekend. That was into a terrible bill on crypto and into a strong dollar. A strong dollar on a non-farm payroll. It was non-farm payrolls month end. And it shrugged off. Crypto shrugged it off. Meanwhile, gold, silver was crapping the bed. So pretty, you know when on bad news you still go up, that you're not in a bear market. That's the beginning of your bull move. When you stop going down on bad news. Let me say that one again. When you stop going down on bad news and you're actually going up into the face of bad news, that is not a bear market. I'm sorry. In all my experience, that is not bearish conduct in any manner at all. But there's still, for a variety of reasons, a lot of new traders, a lot of new crypto guys, people that haven't traded traditional markets for very long as part of their training for this crypto realm, all saying no, bear, because they haven't got back in. So dollar index, been quite perky. This was the previous week, and in fact most of this week. See, back up. So non-farm payrolls was around here, and you've actually traded higher, and in spite of that, crypto's holding its own at these levels. But you are at a bit of a technical level now for 93.2 on the dollar index. Eurozone looks weak. The currency, the euro, looks a bit weak, but they're going to control the currencies from getting too disorderly. They don't want too much nonsense out there. So that's direction. Bitcoin, pretty good. Let's talk about the ones that are a little bit more buoyant. Let's drop down to the next in the queue, which is Ethereum of the alts. So we said you could do, Ethereum should be your bench base case hold. Also, I want to just warn that it has squeezed higher. So this was your best case, and then you had this range that it just kept range trading all the way up and broadening. Then it popped out of that range. It did a little squeezy, had a little dip down, and it's retraced all the way back up. So it's kind of very buoyant. Where's the equivalent of the 47.5 for Ethereum? So let's give that to you. Key levels that might be of interest. Now, you didn't get the same scale of head and shoulder out of Ethereum, but there was one. Let's take it to the 8 hour. Let's get full view picture as you guys are watching closely and monitoring those dates and times. Let's just zoom in on that topping out behavior. So what you had is Bitcoin made its left shoulder here while Ethereum was doing that squeezing up. So Bitcoin made its left shoulder, made that marginally higher high on a rising wedge. Then it sold off down. Then it had its right shoulder, and then it spilled here. But what was happening in Ethereum is Ethereum was overperforming Bitcoin. Remember, we gave you on this channel, we said 6.3 on Huobi, 6.6%, that is Ethereum BTC, your target. And that came right the way down from 2.5. We've shown you those FBTC, HVFs all the way up on an inverted head and shoulders of macro time frame. We said bias to the Ethereum. And so Ethereum continued and made that and ran the 7. We'll look at that chart again just now. But you had a short left shoulder, head, and right shoulder. Now, the first qualifying neckline is the 3,700 over there. But there were also all those round numbers were interesting. 3.6, 3.5, and 3.7. 3.6 captures the point that we call a key inflection point on the rising wedge where you suddenly mooned out the top. So if I just draw that again, because it's kind of messy, maybe I should drop a time frame just to show you this topping conduct. So what we're doing is we're looking at previous high points to see what we can learn about where you start running into some key levels where you may rest a little bit and face a little bit more challenge. So we learn from the past for support in our opinions of the future. Yeah, where are the key levels? So the 3.6, that was the point of the melt up to the high side type 3 rising wedge, which is blow off. Typical what you get in a blow off. Up, 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 pull back down, and there you go. That was your rising wedge. All the way along that grind line, that's your basing ascending grind line that came back and kissed it. And then when it let go through it, you knew it was part and parcel of a possible end. That 3.6, there's your 1, 2, and 3. They were both clearly run for the neckline. That's the 3.7, sorry. The 3.6 was the point when it melted up. You were also supported on that, and it was a good level. And the 3.7 was the absolute low. The 3.5, sorry, I'm confusing the hell out of you. The 3.7 is the one on the top. Obviously, that's the neckline. Let's say that again, because I'm being incoherent at the moment. The 3.6 was the key melt up, the key point of inflection. Key inflection point. And then the 3.5 was the lowest point that you struck in this head. So it was also a very round number. It's halfway between 3 grand and 4 grand. Don't forget, you didn't quite make 4.5. You're at about 4.3 and some change at your high. So there's a cluster of all three of round numbers that are kind of interesting. So let's go back to the future to see where they all stand relative to this. So this is something just to bear in mind. I've also left the Fibonacci on there, and there's the reason for that. See that cluster there? So in the same way that you have the 47.5 leaning, there's some key levels. Pump through and come back in and support on, and it's a bit of a blow off top and we come over a bit. That's possible. So we can slow down a little bit after that. We could even have some downside for a wee bit. But actually, if I'm looking at the bigger time frames, I'm not sure that we're going to have enough time. So what date are we? We are mid-August, 13th of August. I'm not sure we're going to have enough time for a very big macro structural wind up like this, where this would be a huge, and you get a significant pullback and then a third impulse and another major move. I don't think there's time for that. Traders are back at their desks pretty much last week of August. September's full-blown, back to business. Summer doldrums are working their way through now. We're already midway through the August period. So, we're running out of time. What I do think is you go maybe pop through, have a bit of a blow off through, rest a little bit, pull back and come off, maybe a falling wedge, and that just sets up the next advance and you go. So I think you get a shorter version of that where the line along the lows, because this is the lows for Ethereum down here, along the base of the lows is not particularly, doesn't pull down very deep. So you have quite an ascent on this basing ascending grind line. So that would literally be a very mini rest. It's like a short tea break before you push higher. So that would be my highest expectation of what comes next. For Bitcoin as well, but particularly Ethereum and the faster alts. I think they will tip-tap-toe and they will be quite quick. So as long as Bitcoin is not dying and keeps the signal broadly up, I think you're going to have an acceleration. So now why are you hearing about other out of us? Well, our community, we're getting in first. There was a good setup set up by one of our members. We do watch it against the all tokens against each other for relative strength. And this is the value of the program, guys. It's how much you make. If we can put a multiple on how much you make out of this, if we can't have you coming out and it's less than double digits for your program, if we can't have you in a course of a year where you're coming straight into a second half potential alt run, if we can't give you that small multiple to cover less than double digits all in for your year's program, learning and interaction with us, then we've actually failed. Or you've failed. Both of us have failed in some way or another. And it does happen, you know, just because you engage doesn't mean you're going to make the most of it. But most people tend to. So I'll just show you the 3-day chart to give you the macro onto why we are big bulls udder. Apart from he is going to be talking, and yes, there is a lot of hype and a lot of things being released. It's put up or shut up time, but this is Binance, Cardano, Ethereum. Now you'll note that in the beginning listing of this relationship, it was super sketchy. So I'm only going to show you this, then I'm going to cut it out here. So it was finding its space. You see that super volatility. And this is part of the things you'll learn with us about tops and tailing over the macro. This is log scale. So that's why it looks a little bit interesting. So let me just clear that. So it settled down, Cardano, after those opening few weeks. And if I just recenter that, you can see that Cardano, for most of its period, traded inside a range for Ethereum. I drew this a long time ago. Right back in Africa, just as lockdowns were dropping and we were talking about Cardano's relative strength. It was one of the early movers in the first alt run when it was right down at 18 cents lows, etc., etc. So it was topping out typically against Ethereum here, and it hit all-time lows here. Lows, highs. It also hit some on that sketchy bit as well. But that seemed to be the floor, the 20,000. So it's 4 zeros, 20,000, call it. And I'll just call it the 20,000. And then the 55,000 that was being knocked back against Ethereum. It was deemed during that period to be relatively overvalued strong. And it was deemed to be undervalued at the 20,000. And the halfway is the 37.5. And the reason it looks off is because we're in log scale. So your midpoint was the 37.5, and you actually hung just under, in a stall box, just under your midpoint for quite a while. And a couple of times you came just up to it. So it's also interesting. And over here, you came back down and you supported on it. So it's a really interesting area. And we do the super macro analysis of tops and tailing. And that's how it's been existing. And since then, we had a bit of overperformance from UDA. So I'm going to go back into just the more recent history now. We had a bit of the overperformance all the way from the low end right the way through. And that was the first key break. Note how it kissed there, pull back, and then stuff it, I'm out. That's the break. That is the break of the 55,000 level. It is redefining its deliverables. It will be probably confirming smart contracts with a date today and doing a big announcement. And its rating against Ethereum is resetting. It's resetting outside of a range that it's held since its existence against Ethereum, barring the opening days when it was skittish, pump, hump, dump, and everything else that ends with a P. So quite important. And what do we get? Our 55 level and a massive wind up structure just like that. And what is the key level that runs straight through it? The 55 level. So now what was, and this is classic how we overcome key levels. You trade within the range, they resistance and support. You get back up to that resistance point, you blast it the first time, you pull back under it. Now instead of it being something that's on the top end as a resistance level, it now becomes a key level of significance that runs through a pattern. And that pattern turns out to be an altcoin bull structure. So for all those bears, this is going to have to be a downside target because UDA is a smaller token, although substantial token, to Ethereum by market cap. And by all measures, to me, this is a wind up of UDA gaining ground against Ethereum, which implies a bull market is in play. That means Bitcoin should be doing just fine, Ethereum will be doing better, and UDA will be doing better still. And that target will take you through, wait for it, that value right up there, which you can't see. And I'm hiding from you. I'm just kidding. It is 112,000, 3 zeros. So it'll be quite a bit higher than its current level of 6. So that is a 2x overperformance of ADA against Ethereum. That's going to be overperforming against Bitcoin. We'll do the FBTC, but I have done it before for you. So that is quite powerful. You don't have to go into shitcoin XYZ at 997 to look for your 6x, 5x, etc. You can actually see that there's some really good outlooks. And what we really like about this, it's a little bit low slung, but what we really like about it is that the momentum, whoops, didn't mean to do that. Go back there. That the momentum is strong on the up legs. Super strong into this third high, by the way. And this third high will be quite high relative to that stall box. That was a little low for the second one, although you almost made 61.8. You had your descending triangle on the down. So it's got good structure. If it can go up quite close, but not run that high, and then have a slight easing, not go too deep, we get an amazing setup. And you get overperformance. And that's why we have also some other bull tokens. Bull tokens are not for use for rookie traders, not even for intermediate traders. You have to take off. You have to take off. They underperform in choppy markets horrendously. So be careful with their use. Many people don't understand it and they don't get it. So, but if you get steady pumping in a breakout manner, they chronically overperform as well. So that's the greed genie trade. You shouldn't put more than, a little bit of gambling money. If you have 50,000 in crypto, you should put $100 if you want to, if you care to, if you want a little bit of bet. So don't do as I do. I'm well resourced, and I think I know when I'll take it off, and I'll still probably cock it up. In part. So, but I also have the token. So do that. Collateral. We said, what do we like a collateral? There's actually another token that I'll talk positively about that I'll let you know. But these have all been setups, and our guys have been getting in these early. And that's the difference. Being in early, I showed you the falling wedge on Bitcoin, the value of that. The best move is the early part of the move. You're starting to get a little bit more sign of fatigue, and that's going to happen. So what do I think here? A little bit of up and over, but then we go. So there's going to be some point where we ease back a little bit maybe, unless Bitcoin decides to do a quick one. Then you might not get much at all. You could just get a jut and start your journey. And by the way, given the macro scale of this, that was 2018, the far away part of this chart, right at the beginning when it was as skittish as all hell. I'm not going back there again. That was 2018. You have been in a range. We're now, and that was May. So it's over. We're at August now. It's 3 years and a couple of months of range trading. This is the biggest single structure of its kind, technically, for this coin versus an already very good token in my view, for which many people are very bullish. So in light of that, I would expect overperformance. So it doesn't mean it stops there and comes straight the way back down and ends up around here. I think you're going to keep on going. I think you're going to keep on going for a bit. You're going to make new highs. So it won't just be 120,000, whatever it is, sats against Ethereum. It will be quite a bit more potentially. So there is a real bit of honey hanging on that trade. You might make the 20s, you might make 19. That would be very, very powerful. Don't forget, you're 6 now. If you make 18, it's a 3x over performance to Ethereum's performance, which I don't think will be shoddy. So that's a little bit. Let's have a look at your comments. Are you hitting the like button, by the way? We like the likes. We like the likes. We like the likes. And Jody Virginia says, I like ADA. Yes, I think you're going to be well set, Jody. Good luck with it. Hope you make some big green. Nice to have the girls on the stream. Bill, no liquidity on ARR, he says. People getting excited about ARR. Table Mountain sign. Yeah, tabletop. That's what he's referring to, the stall box on the second impulse. So what you've lost by not making a slightly higher high here is you made up with extra hang time. So you didn't go as high, but you had hang time of quite some scale. So it is some compensation. Not 100%. Would have been better if we just got more height, if we could have just gone like that. But in the end we went like that. And the hang time is longer, higher up, but not quite as big an altitude. So that looks good. Thank you, Bill. He shared. Sniper Best Sniper says, Jack, thank you, Jack. Do a TA on BSCS, Binance Smart Chain Station. 3x bull tokens for the win. Yes, you can. Be careful, though, you need to take off. So the key thing about the bull tokens, if it's moving single-mindedly and it's low volatility but going consistently up, you're going to do exceedingly well. The minute you start getting, so when we looked at this with the community guys on split screen and we did a deep dive and I gave them the real deep down on tokens, and I'll share it with you, short, brief answer, is the bull token topped out well before UDA itself, the token topped out. But because it was starting to thrash around more and making higher highs, but also some deep lows, the bull token had already topped and was already starting to lose value. You've got to really be aware of that because it keeps accumulating into the bull market. And then when it sells off, it has to disaccumulate. And then it's going up, it has to reaccumulate. So it's always buying at higher prices and selling into the sell-off and going into. You've got to be real kind of careful. So don't make that your primary hodl position. Hold the token rather, especially if you're new. It's going to hurt you if you do. But if you're going to get a breakout that's going to be pretty consistent, moving in one direction, either to the upside or the downside, obviously you wouldn't buy the bull token if it's a bear you're expecting. You could buy the bear token or you could short the bull token. But if it's consistently going to be moving in one direction, you actually get more than a 3x. You can possibly even get a 5x because they keep adding their position size into a growing market. So it's kind of trend following. So that's that. And we'll tell you the other one we like. I've said it many times to you before, and I'll repeat it again. And I've also said on Twitter, are you following us on @the_crypto_sniper and @the_market_sniper? And if you want the reset kind of stuff on the reset sniper on Twitter, don't forget to do that. There's a free mini series as well in the links below while I'm at it. And this weekend, you can book a call and have a chat in the leisure of your own time with two very lovely gents who have been where you have been, made decisions and consider them to have been good decisions. You can talk to them about their progress and also about program details. We speak to everyone before you come on. We need to make sure you're not a lunatic that's going to lose your head. But most of you are of sane mind. I'm comfortable to announce, but we do get a few loons and it's best not to. And some guys ask, how much do I need? If you have less than 10K in your crypto pot, grab the mini series. We're not for you as yet. You don't have sufficient capital. Learn what you can learn. It's all good. We're not for everybody. Everyone grows. Everyone starts. I had less than 10K for a long part of my life. It's all okay. We're glad to be serving you in YouTube. It's all free. Nobody wants anything for you. You don't have to watch adverts. Grab the free mini series. But don't, you've got to develop a little more. You've got to build a bit more value in the things you are doing more. We have very successful business people, IT engineers. We have an amazing high quality community. So this guy, SBF, is going to, Binance is busy being Bitfinex right now, in my world opinion. I've said that a couple of times on Twitter over the last 4 or 5 weeks with the regulatory clampdown. And when Bitfinex were getting Bitfinexed, they literally, the market share almost got transferred from Bitfinex to Binance as the bull market was coming. And now Binance is getting all these regulatory attacks. I also think FTX is a far better platform to use. Again, link below. Use it. It's awesome. I use it. That said, he is absolutely the profile of a future Zuckerberg. He's chosen one. There will be people around him. So I have no illusions, but I just like a better platform. So I use it. Don't love, don't marry. SBF will probably be very compliant with all the regs. He'll probably be left alone. And I think he's going to mop up market share from people fleeing Binance that are fearing X, Y, and Z. Our funds still Seifu. Everything else that goes on. And we've been watching and we were calling, again, setups by our community members watching. And we've been analyzing an FTT and FTX exchange have been on our side, and I purchased more, I've staked more. If you're a market maker and you're not buying at market, you're not a stack slapper, you're not chaser. You're not a momentum FOMO trader, which you shouldn't be. Limit orders are absolutely your friends. Limits when you sell, limits when you buy. Even if you have to put them quite close to the markets, you become a market maker. And I get paid. Suddenly my cost of transactions. I did a market sniper clip. I highlighted trading FX and equities on my one spread betting account. I paid £180,000 in costs of trading. Just the holding the positions open, the spread, all of that. You can download the Excel at the end of the year and you can do it. And when I took out the Turkish lira, which was known to be very expensive, the interest rates were high and we were going long the USD try. So there was obviously a big catch, even excluding that very expensive trade, which we made a lot of money on. It was still 90 grand in a year in pounds. That's what, $125,000. It's a good annual salary. I was trading quite big and I was quite active. Okay, you always won't be necessarily like that. Some of you might be bigger. It doesn't matter the number. It's just there's costs to business. So if you have a certain amount of FTT staked, while it doesn't count as collateral, you get paid for putting in limit orders and doing what you were going to do anyway. So it makes sense to me. And as a result, I do it. So we were accumulating and this just kept running. It's been a monster. And I just want to highlight to you a key point. Everyone says, well, I'll get the next one that's going to go. And that means you chase the late runners, the ones that haven't run, the ones that are still in the blood basement. There's plenty tokens when you do the simple basic trick. And I don't know if I mentioned it to you, Freeview, or whether I was talking to my community when I said it, but I'm quite happy to share it with you. Every token you're looking at, throw the fib 100% on the high, the half-time high, to the half-time, end of half-time low. Throw that fib 100 to naught. Put your vanilla ice creams, your strawberry ice creams in there. The blood basement is here. That's where they made Saw the movie. You all just get your limbs cut off and it's all torture and gruesome. And many of them are still in there. And you want to, oh, I'll buy that one because the other one's already run. And my answer to you is no. No, buy the one that's already run. Just find a good time to do it. Because the one that's already run is the better. The early runners are the best runners generally for the whole bull market generally. The temptation is always to buy cheap and to buy low. Yes, there will be some second wave ones that will pump and you'll think, well, if I'd kind of got into that one, I might have got a higher percentage. Like DOT's lagged, it's fallen kind of hard, it can suddenly pump and you catch up. There will be some instances where it might work for you, but generally the ones that are high, this is close, 78.6. This is like what bear market, what pullback, what halftime. I'm almost back at my all-time high. Yeah. 78%. So if that bear trap's coming, it needs to come big and real soon. That's my view. This exchange is looking very forward to doing rather well, and you might find it's already getting future discounted value add, possibly picking up market share and everything. And as I say, grab it. I think it's the best available. Only you'll be able to trade ADA only on perp. It's one of the only ones you can't trade on spot, but you can trade it on the future and you can still get a leverage token on it, despite them not being a spot market. Every other token, there's a spot market for just about it. I hated having all these different exchanges to trade one individual token that I really liked, and you had to move money around. It's pretty much all in, with very few exceptions. So do that. Have a look how far you've rebound. Those are going to be your shooting stars. FTT to climb really strong. Let's have a look at it where it is in the CoinMarketCap now. I wouldn't be shocked if this one makes the top 15 or top 10 in time. Where is he? FTX token. He flashed past my eyes there. 28. Top 15 token in the not too distant future, possibly top 10. It's going to be a transfer of market share. I can feel it. And that's taking it all back to New York and our friend SBF. So that's another one for you to watch. No specific structure. If you run in and buy this right now and Bitcoin has a pullback, I'm not saying the entry is now. Please understand. I'm talking macro building positions. You want to wait for soft moments. There were soft moments even in this move. Every shooting star and dip back is quickly bought. You've just had one, so you missed getting it at 47 or 48. Wait for the next one. There'll probably be, remember Bitcoin probably needs to have a little bit of up and downer still. It will get sucked a little bit down, but it's also going to overperform. If you have a look at it to Bitcoin, let's have a look at it. That is a beautiful rounded bottom. And actually it's even closer to running. It's even closer to running its all-time Bitcoin valuation. So you have currently a token that's very close to running its all-time Bitcoin valuation high. Another great one. So you can have a solid, what you need to be thinking is, what do I need to hold? Hold FTT, hold ADA, hold Ethereum in your blue pot. I'm actually not, as I've said, holding Bitcoin because other things will overperform. Not because I'm bearish Bitcoin. Bitcoin's my direction. It's one of the most important charts I analyze. But because my conclusion is it's bull market and it's half-time oranges as the whistle's gone and we're back going, fine. Now I hold the ones that I think will overperform it. And Ethereum, as we've already guided, FTT and ADA, and you're going to be doing just dandy. And as I've said, there you go. This percentage now, I would love to get a value. We probably can measure it. How far down is that? It's 4% off its high against Bitcoin. 4%. And it's working it back at a rapid rate. It's working it back at a rapid rate. Let's see what your comments are. Francis, what's your year-end target for Bitcoin? I don't have a specific year-end target. I'm more interested in where it will top. I think actually you could trade through the year. We might have a delay before we go. So there's a couple of scenarios that might happen for Bitcoin. Might have a bit of a delay. We could have a bit of a chunkier pullback, for example. Maybe this is a double top and it winds down, it comes back a little bit. I don't personally feel that, but let's say it tops out a bit here and has a slightly more protracted coming off. I'm more interested in that, where will it be at its high? You could get delayed that the year end isn't the high. So I've said many times, the cycle has changed and you've had quite a lengthy half time. That's your break from the falling wedge. That's when it officially broke. That's when it made its target. And this has all been bottoming, churn. That's a lengthy period. May, almost through to the end of July. We kept telling you, keep the faith, keep the faith, keep the faith, stay long. So many guys now were calling the bottom at 30. Like bullshit. No one was. Who was calling the bottom through 30? I was like, I was said. I'm seeing on my Twitter feed. I said all along. I was like, okay. I don't know who you said it to. You mumbled it to yourself in the pillow. But this actually started to top out. There. So you stopped going up super strongly. You started to churn and put in rising wedge here. That was your high. That came in even further back. April the 12th. So from April, almost to the end of July. And if you take it when you first crossed the 47.5, back here. That was the first time ever you crossed the 47.5. That's February. And now we've got to get back to where we were in February. February's a long way away. So it's been fairly extended. So it's quite possible that the top for this cycle, before you get a fairly meaningful another pullback of 30% plus, 25% plus-ish, could only come maybe March next year. The high might be in January and you keep churning a bit and you're still pretty high in March, but kind of in a range and you're a little bit stale. Who knows? Price, pretty much on the 170 to 320,000. So there's a lot that has to happen. There's going to be some big pumping if that happens. I don't know if that all happens in this next move. You might get a 30% correction and then you make the 170 to 320 in the following leg that follows. But the next significant high from the fib extensions, we did a YouTube on that. That's going to be pretty powerful. And Ethereum can do 10, 7, 10, 15, 20K. And ADA would be quite high if it's doing a 2x on that as well. So this whole space could expand immensely. We could be at 4, 5 trillion by the time it all ends for the next major correction. Who knows? That would be the positive side. I don't have any thoughts on the possible TATF regulation on DeFi. I haven't read it. So I am out of my skill set on that one. I can't comment, I'm afraid. I would need to read. You can attach links and I can try catch up. So we never did, so the flippening of ETH versus BTC, people have stopped talking about that, and that's usually when it starts to become more of a risk. But I remember in the last bull market, it was everything everyone was talking about. So I'll take a few things off here that we were doing deep dive. And even though ADA might go up faster, I still think that it would be ETH that would be probably the biggest threat in terms of market cap. So again, we've said this many times and we've said it again, we'll say it again. Another example of key structural wind up on a key level of significance. That was your target, 2.5 years to get there. These were all your little upside HVS. Plus there was a much bigger one earlier at 2.5 when we said you want to buy us long. You're at 2.5 Ethereum. This is a target of 9. And we're playing footsie a little bit here on the key level. Funny that. And actually our midpoint of our funnel is bang on the target. It's funny that. More coincidences. We get a lot of highly coincidental lines on our chart that are very useful for scenario casting, forward looking. So this is a good chart. This is a good chart. This is a good chart, and it would also have overperformance potential in it. Again, it's a macro that is set up. We've freshened up the bull. And I think the alts will be on the run a lot sooner than last time. Good. So let's see what other questions you got. Watch repo and do an overlay with variant talk. Plan B mentioned the repo shenanigans today. So I think you're talking about the repo rates between banks, the LIBOR and the Fed. We had a big crisis on that in September, October of 19. In fact, the whole economy had to crash. That's why they were pushing through. I actually felt, discussing with somebody, the pandemic virus was kicking around in the 2019, I'm pretty sure, because I'm pretty sure I bumped into it. 300K is 10 trillion BTC. 300K would be a 10 trillion gold market cap. It would be huge. Yes, it would be. I don't think it's that easily done. 300 is big. I think, you start with a 120. You've got to do 120 first. But you've already done 64, which is 2/3 of the way to 100. So 100,000 is very psychological for everyone until you get there, and then you're through it. So a couple of requests. Hex is actually back to winding up again a little bit. We always have a hexagon or two. Welcome. Whoops. I'm putting all the wrong things up here. This looks like a little bit of a wind up. I did mention it to the community. 1 or 2 might be in. A little bit of a wind up again. And it keeps doing its HVFs. Was a bit of a nasty absence of bid spike there. But it's squared up. It's flattened out. The volatility ironed out. It's going to be interesting what happens when the pulse is distributed in, I think it's going to probably be a couple of months' time. You're relying on Richard to do that, but that's a setup. It's done very well for me. I'll keep saying it. That's the truth. But it's a Marmite token. Many people don't like it. I just worry that one day they want to stamp on the high profile, colorful characters. They'll never let you own your own money forever. But you can enjoy the ride, but make sure you take off along the way a little bit just to protect yourself. These other tokens like Cardano and Ethereum, they control structure through and through. A difficult question. Josh asks about Grayscale, Bitcoin, and MicroStrategy. I don't like the costings of 2% per annum on Grayscale. But I'll probably end up having to buy some Grayscale ETH because I have some funds not in a crypto space, but that are more equity specific. So yeah, I don't like the costs. I don't know the correlation of MicroStrategy, how pure it's been to the crypto market. Mr. Smith says AAVE and even against ETH. Let's see if we can get AAVE up. It is one I've been keeping half an eye out. AAVE. We'll see if we get an ETH chart. ETH is our benchmark. We have one as well. It's already here. Now I just have to find it. Let me add the Kraken one. It'll be quicker. So Hex is still in its overperformance bands. You saw that. And for us, so we stay with it. That's not got too much history for me to read of a ETH. Couple of big spikes. Look, normally, technically, with the little that you have, you would say that's probably going to break to the upside. It looks a bit bear flag, a bull flag. Let me restate, bull flag. So at some point, but it's a bit weak. It's a technical, it's a tactical time frame comment that on its own. I would have wanted more structure and more visibility on that. And so what else you guys on about? Very interesting. AGX and RSI are going parallel, says somebody. You know more about that than I do. Smashing the like button. Yep, we love that. St. Gaulis, they could have bought it at $600 and made a fund like GBTC. He's talking to somebody about something interesting. There's someone who desperately wants some NEO. I don't know why NEO doesn't seem to come into the story very much. They seem to have fallen off the map. But there's some developments in the space, so we'll put him on again for you. Have a quick look. Maybe you'll show us something interesting. Haven't looked at NEO in ages. I remember trading it when it was ANS, ANS, and it was turning to flipping into NEO and getting a great trade on it. So this is a classic case of the example. The best trade for you was here in the bull market. Was that? The return move so far is well under what I just showed you on FTT. And I know the temptation is, oh, but I must buy, this one's cheaper. Well, it may not go as far or as strong. There's a reason why it's taking a lot longer to get going. So you should do your fib retrace and see how far it's gone. Remember FTT against Bitcoin, it's somewhere up here in the gray zone. That's going to make new highs and go a lot further. Truly feel it. That guy's going to be 100 billion. He'll be the next 100 billionaire, and he'll be under 30 still, probably, by the time it happens. He'll be on Time magazine and all of that. I have no doubts about it. It's very clear.
Can you also take a look at XRP?
XRP, yes, we can do XRP. It's a big one. And let's check him out. He's also been a bit a laggard on the recovery, but a bit better than what we were just looking at. A bit better than what we were just looking at there in NEO. So he's overperforming NEO. But you want to also measure him against BTC. Someone was saying, XRP is pumping, it's the end of the bull run. I saw that one. I smiled. So again, if I were drawing here, this is how I draw. Very big first impulse and then a super flat secondary bit. That's how unfortunately how your wedge would probably end up looking. A bit bent nosed. But that was a good little structure and a nice little pop against Bitcoin. But right now, selling wicks and indecision. Let's see on a lower time frame. Some of you are small time. Could be a nice little wind up, actually. Could be a nice little wind up that. Mark it up. as a possible wind up. So if that drifts off a little bit like that, that could give you a nice little setup. I think he'll come back a bit. He'll come back into the story a bit. So that's quite nice. It's not absolute fear. It's not a spill. This typically points to continuation. It's not a man pees off the roof pullback after a big move. It's completely the opposite. It's kind of staged like that. And then you get a nice, fairly strong bump out of that. So you actually got a little bit of structure there that could be interesting. So you want to try accumulate there and trade for a target somewhere up there. Tight stop. You'll have a decent RRR. 4s, 5s, 6s. Maybe you can even get 7 out of it. Yep. Link, says somebody. It's Josalindo. Josalindo. Don't forget to grab the link to book a call. Speaking of links, you'll get a time, a diary. Click on the link. It will say, have a chat. It costs you nothing. And you don't have to do anything as a result of it. You're just informed. And you've spoken to someone. And you realize there's a human. There's a real business going on there. We also like uni. So I'd also add, I mentioned FTX and ADA, obviously very strong. But we also quite like Uni's recovery. It's into the dark green. It's not the gray. This is against the dollar. Against BTC, let's have a look. On the greens, pretty decent. Little bit of wicks now, looking a little bit breathless. So I wouldn't chase in here, but possibly accumulate on a sell-off. Doesn't look so tired against the dollar, but that might be a bit of Bitcoin strength. So it's done pretty well, but you've seen even better. We also mentioned Sol. That's into the blue zone as well now. And it didn't make new lows. That was part of what we told you about. The initial spill was the worst spill. It refused to run new lows. It held a line. It's a terrible structure, but I think it will walk its way up and then get going. So it's also a goodie. So you can add Sol and Uni to your FTT and you can make a few choices. You don't have to have them all. Someone had asked me to look at something and I went on a sidebar there. I'm not sure I ever ended up going. Where was it? Link. That was it. We started talking about links. That was it. Again, falling wedge, broke the falling wedge. They've all broken the falling wedge. I told you it's orange wedges for half time. And now you see the wedge. Now eat your wedge. Get all the juice. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. These are all going to do well if the whole alt run runs. It's a case of how much. Well, and those single different multiples make all the world of difference. And getting out on time. Getting out on time and not riding it to the downside. So it's okay without being special. It's a little bit okay. But if Bitcoin keeps holding up and runs the 47.5, these are all going to do well. Don't marry your projects, marry the best macro chart. And then be prepared to column. So that's it. Good. Guys, I want you to enjoy your weekend. We had a good weekend last time, actually. It's going to come down to Bitcoin. We'll leave with Bitcoin on the chart. Come and join us on the mini-series or book a call. And we will see you in the movies. This is looking fairly firm from Bitcoin. Actually, Bitcoin looking quite nice. Some of those alts we were looking at, a little bit more wiki at this level. Bitcoin looking quite nice. Maybe you'll just run. Maybe you won't mess around and you'll just take that 47.5. It just, when I was looking at the smaller time frames, there was a bit of wicks and a bit of pushback, but you can sometimes melt up. But I still feel there's probably some degree of resistance here. But it could blast it, but it's kind of probing quite a bit. 46,800 seems to be a key level because it's very quick into the next drop there. So Bitcoin looking quite hungry. But if he doesn't succeed here, he could get soft and come back. So I wouldn't chase in at these levels. It's too risky, and I wouldn't be buying Bitcoin. But if he goes for the 47.5, your altcoins are going to smile, generally. Great stuff. Thank you for watching. We will catch you later. Thanks for your comments and your likes. We appreciate it. Give it a share. Catch us up. Book a call. Grab the mini-series. Do all of those fine things. This is your second half, oranges. You need to build wealth. These are key times. These are super, super key times. This could be the most important 6 months of your life. You play your cards right, you may not have to work again, and you will not need UBI. You will not be forced to do all the things that government will want you to do to get UBI. You could be independently free. You could build and buy the home of your dreams potentially without having to start off with huge amount of capital. You have to play this bull market right. It is a bull market in our view. And many people disagree. It's easy to be thrown off course. So with that in mind, stay focused on what's coming, and don't look the gift horse in the mouth. It's a real opportunity. Play it wise and smart, and we will see you next time. All the best. Enjoy your weekend.